Hey guys, welcome in to another edition of the Rob Kendall Show. Happy Monday. Hope you had a great weekend. We got so much to get to today. Special guest coming up later on in the hour. Daniel Elliott, Indiana State Treasurer, will be with us. He'll talk about his concerns over AES being bought by BlackRock, concerns potentially about the Bears Stadium, if that happens in Northwest Indiana, and how that's being funded. And we'll talk a little bit about campaign season and get some of his thoughts on Greg Ballard running as an independent candidate for Secretary of State. Daniel Elliott will be on the ballot at the convention for the Republicans this spring, and then this fall if he is the nominee in November. So that's coming up in a little bit. Want to start our program today. Well, first of all, remind everybody, if you haven't, check out our website, robkendallshow.com, robkendallshow.com. You can watch the program live there. You can go back and watch archive podcasts and get transcripts of some of our favorite episodes each day, robkendallshow.com. Speaking of podcasts, you asked, we delivered late last week. We are now available on all the platforms, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. You can now check us out on demand. Still got to watch live here on YouTube, but if you're an on-demand type of person, don't want to watch the YouTube feed, you can check us out. Website at robkendallshow.com, robkendallshow.com to get that link to all your favorite podcasting platforms, as well as top of Twitter at RobMKendall, pinned to the top of the Twitter feed. Want to start off this week by thanking everybody who came out to see us Saturday night in Greenwood for our live show. Jason Hammer and myself, Mad Hatter Comedy Club. The crowd, the place was sold out. Packed event. Man, you guys were amazing. Unbelievable crowd. It was so great to meet so many of you. Those of you who bought my horrible book, thank you for that. It was just an outstanding evening, and it was so great to get to visit with you guys again, hear how much what we've done has meant to you, get a chance for me to tell you how much you've meant to me. And we're hoping that here in the near future, since that show went so well, we'll be able to do more shows. So thank you to everyone who came. I know a bunch of you wanted to get tickets, couldn't get tickets. Maybe we'll do 2 shows next time. Thank you to everybody who was a part of the big sold-out live show in Greenwood on Saturday night. You guys were amazing. All right, we've got so much to get to. Oh, one more thing before we start. If you haven't, please like, share, and subscribe on YouTube. If you have not done that, that is one thing you can do for us. That will be immensely helpful. Head to the feed right now. Just type in Rob Kendall Show. Obviously, you're watching us. You don't even have to do that. Duh. Go ahead and subscribe. That will help us out a great deal. Also, share this feed right now. If you're watching, if you're enjoying it, it will help so much get the word out. It is we are doing this organically. It is all of us in this together. Share the feed. Share the live stream. Let people know where we are and what we are doing. Thank you to those of you watching us live on YouTube. Oh, and coming up later, for those of you in the chat, now you have to be a subscriber to be in the chat and behave yourselves. You don't have to like me. You don't have to say I'm the best. If you don't like my take on something, that's okay. We're not the thought police here. We do require you to behave like a decent member of society and behave by all applicable rules and standards. Producer Jason is judge and jury on that. If you get out of line, he will throw you out. We want it to be a place where people feel welcome. And here in a little bit, Jason will read some of his favorite comments in the YouTube chat. So Jason is who you're trying to impress. All right, we got a lot to get to. We start with, once again, Indiana Secretary of State Diego Morales pulling BS on the people of Indiana. He has now been referred to, by the way, this comes to us from the Indy Star. He has now been referred to the State Inspector General and Ethics Board and has been banned from the Marion County Election Center. And the excuse for the thing he is in hot water over is the dumbest thing ever. The dumbest excuse I have ever heard. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about this on the show before. We talked about it a little bit last week, and then while we were on the air towards the end of our program on Friday, this announcement came down. Didn't have all the details at the time. Abdul had just broke the story. Now we have all the details, and we can get into this because it is another in the long list of shenanigans pulled by Indiana's Secretary of State, Diego Morales. Okay, so Let's go back in time, shall we, to November of 2024. That was the election season when Trump was elected president. And during that election season, according to the Indianapolis Star, Diego Morales went to the Marion County Election Center. Most of you know this. Most of you are Indiana people. For those who don't, that's Indianapolis. He went to the Marion County Election Center as the chief elections officer for the state of Indiana, which our Secretary of State is. And while he was there acting in his official capacity as the chief elections officer for the state of Indiana, he had his staff, his state staff, film him participating with election workers in Marion County, touring the facility, etc. Okay, fine. Fast forward to May of 2025, and in May of 2025, Diego Morales announces that he is running for re-election. Announces his campaign for re-election. He's running to once again become the Secretary of State of the state of Indiana. In that video announcement, he posts footage from the clips that he took while he was acting as Indiana Secretary of State in the Marion County Election Center with the Marion County election workers. And while doing this, the Marion County Election Board got wind of this. They saw the video. They said, hey, would you please take that down? Would you please remove the footage of our workers with you? These are people that are working on behalf of the state of Indiana. They're working on behalf of Marion County. They don't want to be in a political ad. They're not trying to be political. We don't want our election center featured in this. You cannot use state resources to campaign. That's a very clear rule. It's made very clear to people, whether you're a statewide office holder or a state employee, you cannot use state resources to campaign. They send the letter. They don't get a response. So again, the time frame on this matters because, and just to reset this, November of 2024 is when he takes the video. May of 2025 is when he makes his announcement he's running for re-election using the video footage that he took allegedly with state employees, his state employees of other government workers. All right. So Marion County Election Board, they send a letter, election system sends a letter, says, hey, take the stuff down. We don't want our election workers featured. They don't want to be featured. They're not campaigning there. It's not for you or against you. They just want to do their jobs. They don't get a response. According to Indy Star, they send multiple requests to Diego Morales to take down the videos. And again, they don't get a response. So the Marion County Elections Board launches an investigation into this issue. They said, if you're not going to respond to us, if you're not going to do what we ask, then we're going to launch an investigation. The board then, after their investigation is wrapped up, which was revealed on Friday, forwarded what they found to the Inspector General of the state of Indiana, as well as the state ethics board. Morales then finally responds. Now get this. Morales then finally responds, well, we did respond to you guys. We sent an email. And the Marion County Elections Board, now this is according to Abdul. By the way, Abdul did a deep dive on his cheat sheet about this. So Diego then finally says something and says, well, we sent an email. Diego's people, we sent an email. Marion County Elections Board says, we've checked our spam folder. We've checked every folder. We see no sign that an email was sent to us. And by the way, if you were sending an email of something of this magnitude, you would correspond and go, hey, we responded to you guys. Want to make sure you got it. Can you confirm you got it? That's something with any level of professionalism you would do. They knew the seriousness of the issue. They knew the Marion County Election Board was moving forward with this investigation. All of that stuff had played out in public. It was not like it was some secret. They didn't do any of that. So the Marion County Election Board said, we didn't get your email. We have no correspondence from you. We've checked all of our folders. Diego's office then allegedly produces the letter that they sent, but there's no timestamp on it, according to Abdul's reporting. There's nothing that shows, hey, here's the sent box, here's where it was. None of that. It's just a letter. We'll come back to why that matters in just a second. So let's get to what Diego's excuse is, because if he is allowed to get away with this, you are opening Pandora's box in the state of Indiana in regards to elected officials being able to use government resources to campaign. Here was Diego's excuse. Diego is trying to claim it's okay that so keep in mind, he used his employees to take the video. He used his employees to take the video of government workers doing official government business, something you and I could not do. We don't have access. We weren't allowed to tour the facility. We don't have the resources that Diego does. He's using state resources. Diego's excuse is that, well, the video that we posted was posted to a state website, so anyone could have used it, so it's totally fair game for anyone to use it. Who in their right mind would want video of Diego Morales touring the Marion County Election Center, hanging out with Marion County election workers other than Diego Morales? The answer is no one. And so if this excuse is allowed to stand by the Inspector General of the state of Indiana, then any elected official, local, county, state, federal, could simply use state resources to do whatever campaigning they want to do. And as long as they post it to some sort of state website, then they're in the clear. This is a very, very serious issue if he's allowed to get away with this based on the excuse, well, I posted it to a state website. It appears very clear that the intent of taking that video was to use it in a future campaign ad, which he did. And it is very clear, laid out by the state of Indiana, you cannot use state resources for campaign purposes. And if the state inspector general allows this it's ridiculous on its face, it's ridiculous on the merits, but if the state inspector general allows that excuse to stand, then elected officials all over Indiana will be using state resources to campaign, your money to campaign for themselves, and as long as they put it on some sort of public or government server, they'll be able to get away with it. The question everyone should be asking is, when does the almost daily BS that comes from Indiana's Secretary of State, Diego Morales, when does someone put a stop to it? No matter what this guy does, no one in that state house will step up and do something about it. Whether it's the 10-day trip to India, where he won't tell you who paid for it, then bizarrely starts shouting that he paid for it, but won't show any proof that he paid for it or who he paid back, or or receipts that show what he was paying it back for. Whether it's the $90,000 car, SUV, whether it's hiring family members, whether it's giving no bid contracts to people who give lots of money to his campaign, whether it's now this, the list is endless of the crap this guy has pulled, and no one will say a word. Greg Ballard wants to run as an independent, and the Republicans make him public enemy number one. I have not seen a single elected Republican in that state house speak up against Diego Morales on this latest issue, which is far more serious or damaging, potentially, to the trust in government, to our institutions, than Greg Ballard running as an independent for Secretary of State. For some reason, and you have to ask yourself why, because everybody in that state house knows what he is, the Republican Party keeps standing behind Diego Morales, including some of the most powerful people in our state. I just saw where our Senator Jim Banks endorsed him the other day. Why is this behavior acceptable? Why is this behavior okay? Why is Diego Morales continually allowed to get away with this? Now, I do have some optimism on this. The Inspector General recently went very hard in their investigation on Jennifer Ruth Green, former public safety director for Mike Braun, ultimately resulting in her resignation and her paying, I believe, was the largest fine ever issued in state history. So we do have a track record, at least, of this Inspector General taking these allegations seriously, looking into them, and there being punishment for people who do not follow the laws and the rules of the state of Indiana. Now, look, one of the things that's so frustrating about this is the rules are so broad and elected officials get around them all the time. It puts the arrogance and elitist attitude of Diego Morales on full display that he pulls something like this that potentially gets himself in hot water. Elected officials get around this stuff all the time. They call it frank mail, where they send these letters to you. They send these letters to your house that are campaign propaganda, but because they involve state business. I got one from Jim Baird. Jim Baird, U.S. representative, is the king of these. I bet I get one of these a month, it seems like, from him. It's propaganda. It's campaign propaganda that we pay for as taxpayers. You see these guys on billboards that look like campaign ads that qualify. Now, those are federal elected officials, but our state senators do it. Our state reps do it. I'm sure you've gotten those very nicely laminated, not laminated, but nicely printed mailers, big ones. Spare no expense, right? Postage alone, much less the printing, costs a fortune. And that's okay. The rules are so broad, you have to almost try to get in trouble. You have to totally flaunt any sense of decency to find yourself in hot water. Any sense of remote obligation to the taxpayers to get yourself in hot water. And yet Diego Morales has found a way to do it, just like Jennifer Ruth Green did. When are the Republicans going to say enough is enough with Diego Morales? When are the Republicans going to pull the plug on this guy? And are the Republican delegates at the convention this spring in Fort Wayne going to risk putting this guy on the ballot as their nominee, with Greg Ballard probably running and a very well-funded, at least, likely nominee in Bo Bai? Hopefully the Republicans will do the right thing and pull the plug on Diego Morales. Guys, let me tell you about a brand new company that is supporting Rob Kendall Show. These guys are awesome. Their name is Vent Savvy. Let me ask you something. When you take a hot shower, does your mirror stay fogged up for 10 or 15 minutes? If it does, your bathroom fan isn't doing its job. And that moisture doesn't just disappear. It gets trapped in your walls, your ceiling, even your attic. Over time, that can mean mold, insulation damage, and expensive repairs most homeowners never see coming. You should call my friends at Vent Savvy. They specialize in upgrading bathroom exhaust fans the right way, properly sized and properly vented. Go to ventsavvy.com. That's VENTSAVVY.com. Ventsavvy, VENTSAVVY.com, and mention Rob for a free attic inspection. John, the owner of Vent Savvy, is a big fan of our show, North Central graduate, and Hoosier through and through. John will come to your house and take great care of you. Visit ventsavvy.com or call 317-300-4434. That's 317-300-4434. And mention Rob for a free attic inspection. All right. Let's take a real quick break. When we come back, Jason is going to probably read some of your chats in the YouTube. Don't forget, you got to be a subscriber to be able to do that. And Trump has come out saying that he is not going to sign any more bills into law until the SAVE Act is passed. No, that is the Universal Voter ID bill. This could be a fascinating standoff, especially at a time where part of the government is shut down. We'll get into that when we come back. You're watching Rob Kendall Show.
Your bathroom fan could be secretly costing you thousands of dollars in damages. Most people don't even know this until the damage is done. With over 18 years of bathroom remodeling experience, here are 3 signs your fan is failing you without spending a dime on inspections. Sign number 1 is if you have foggy mirrors after you shower. This shows that your fan isn't pulling out enough moisture, which creates the perfect environment for mold. If you have a properly functioning bathroom fan that is the right size for your space, you shouldn't see much fogginess on your bathroom mirror at all. Sign number 2 is if you have bubbling, cracking, or peeling paint in your bathroom. This means moisture is soaking into your walls, slowly breaking down drywall, and even causing the wood framing behind it to rot. Sign number 3 is if you have mold buildup on your fan, ceilings, or walls. This is terrible for your health, but also could wreck your bathroom, costing you a fortune. If you're noticing any of these signs, here's what you can do.
Call Vent Savvy today at 317-300-4434. That's 317-300-4434 and mention Rob for a free attic inspection.
Are you a Clay County resident who is ready to be part of creating a brighter future for our citizens? Doug Cobb is running for county commissioner and will bring fresh perspective to the table. A local farm and business owner, he has skin in the game of our county's success. He knows that a great team can accomplish so much more than any one of us alone and is ready to create a brighter future for Clay County together. The committee to elect Doug Cobb approves this ad. Paid for by Linda Cheatham.
Bramwell Mackay assists managers of multifamily and commercial real estate properties with exterior and structural condition assessment and end-to-end building wellness. Your consulting partners for water intrusion inspection and remediation, Bramwell Mackay handles historic restoration and repair, as well as modern repair needs. In Indianapolis, call 812-33-BRICK. That's 812-33-BRICK. 812-33-BRICK.
Hey guys, welcome back. Rob Kendall Show. Don't forget, you can find us online, robkendallshow.com. Got the live stream there, the podcast. Also got transcripts of some of our favorite segments. And if you'd like to support the show, got a little button there where you can support us any amount you'd like to support us with. Very much appreciated. We're not begging you for money. We just had several people reach out saying, I don't own a business. I don't run a business, but I do love what you do. I want to support you. We said the easiest thing to do, we just throw a button up for everyone rather than just sending the information out to everybody. So if you want to do that, that's great. Don't feel obligated. You watching, that's simply enough for us. A couple of other things. Don't forget, I'm on Twitter, at Rob M. Kendall, at Rob M. Kendall. Would appreciate a follow there. And if you haven't, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. I know it's like a broken record thing, right? But it really does help us out if you'll hit that subscribe button. All right, let's get to some of your comments. Now, in order to comment on our YouTube feed, you do have to be a subscriber. We are free speech people here. We allow you to say pretty much what you want, whether you like us, you don't like us, whatever. Just got to be a member of decent society. And we have put producer Jason in charge of picking out the best comments each day in the YouTube chat, and Jason graciously agreed to even be on video camera with us. And there you are. Oh
Here
my
I
gosh.
am.
You get more beautiful.
Can you hear me now?
You get so at our live show on Saturday, you got a rousing round of applause from the entire audience.
I did, and it was quite expected.
Yeah. So we have put you in charge of the YouTube chat because you are a man of great discernment, sort of the residential Zen master of the Rob Kendall Show. And so I'm just going to turn it over to you. Give us some of the best chats.
Well, last week we tried to have you read some of the chats.
I'm horrible at it.
And you would read like two of them, and they would be like, oh, Rob, you're great, and, fantastic show. Okay, that's great. Thanks for the comments. But we do this. Oh, wow, this is really, this is, I got a white wall behind me. You can't see this, Rob.
Are you bleeding into it?
No, it's kind of, I think I am. But
it's
that's
like Ghost.
Okay. As long as you can hear
As long as you can hear, we got to get, look, so real quick for people, we are building a new studio. Chris Spangle and his organization have been kind enough to graciously let us use this. He's been an immense help to us until we can get our thing built out. They didn't want us to have to wait. So we are trying not to touch other people's stuff. We're very,
I've a good rule of thumb.
Yeah, I've got
my mouth's on the other side of the room.
And so, it's not set up exactly how we will have it ultimately set up, but so you're just bleeding. You're just bleeding into the background.
It's just like a white wall, but I think we're okay.
Yeah.
So let's get to the comments.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, shall we? So I'm back and way up here. Ty Van Wagner says, listening from Estero, Florida.
Yes,
I used to live down that way.
Ty, distinguished member of law enforcement here in Indiana, ran for sheriff in Hendricks County. Great guy. Yes.
Right. He says, I want to live where there is no property tax or income tax. All tax is theft.
Yeah, it's not wrong.
Pretty much got it there. MLM Warriors. He's usually the first one on, I think, about every day, so we really appreciate that. I like the buffer music. We refer to it in the industry as bumper. but buffer between Rob and the start. That's
very good.
Take it. We
yes.
understand the compliment, and we do appreciate it. Back to the best mid-morning show in the time slot for those of us living in Central Indiana. That's M. Belfour. But let's get to some of the oil, $100 a barrel today. You want to?
We're going to get into that later. Yeah, we got a whole segment on that.
All right, Kendall is not 5'8".
Hey, look, my driver's license says that. You got to stand next to the thing, right? By the way, can I point out, I am back at my driver's license weight. I've had the same driver's license, they renew it, right, for what, 20 years? That's pretty impressive, right? To be the same weight you were 20 years ago?
Yeah, well, I remember Rob 20 years ago, and Rob had little noodle arms. It was, and he would go on this fasting where it was like you were trying to lose body weight, like percentage.
Yeah.
You'd be like, I've got 0.5% whatever body fat. I'm like, dude, you look like a toothpick. And all of a sudden, you start working out.
I've been as high as 145. I've been as low as 145, as high as 180, and I'm currently 155. My driver's license weight.
There we go. So let's see. Continuing on here, let's get to some good stuff. And they're all great comments. That's the thing. That's why I wanted to highlight these because, we get 300 or 400 comments a show, and it's great. And I just sit here half the time. I forget you're even on because I'm reading the comments.
That's right.
It's like, man,
they're more entertaining than me.
There's some good stuff there. So, we may come back later to some of these. Let's see. Joseph Norris, knowing the worst possible outcome is politicians giving themselves free campaign funds from the taxpayers, then I think we know what the final decision will be from the Inspector General.
So Joseph was at our live show.
To jail, are they, Rob?
Look. Here's the optimism I have is that the Inspector General and the Ethics Board did come down pretty hard on Jennifer Ruth Green, but Diego is like, for some reason, look, I've long had a theory it's related to the money because the money that touches Diego touches so many of these other politicians. They've yet to do anything else about him, so maybe this will be the time.
All right, so as I get to the end of the chat here, everybody seems to love me. That's pretty awesome. Somebody should say something bad. Let's see. They mentioned the Watson's girl.
Yes.
That came out. Yeah.
The Watson's girl was our opener for the show on Saturday night. She was awesome. Still looks almost exactly the same as she did all those years ago when she was doing those commercials. She was Jennifer the Watson's girl. She was outstanding.
Don B thinks I'm a very modest person as
you are.
well as you, Rob.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. We balance each other out quite
Pretty
well.
Much. So, all right. So again, guys, fantastic. I love the comments. And I keep telling Rob every show or last week's like, man, we've got to get into more of these comments because you guys take the time to do this, and it's like a great little bunch of. I don't know. Is Robblehead, is that a bad term? Call them Robbleheads? That's what the one guy that didn't like me on the old show used to reference that. I think we should embrace that.
Yeah, maybe we should make some Robbleheads.
T-shirts or something.
Yeah,
I don't know. But
all right.
Nonetheless.
Yeah, thanks, Jason.
Get me off the screen here. Let's be a little man. So long, everybody.
Jason will be back later on in the show.
Yes.
All right, that went way better than I expected. That went very well. Okay, let's real quick, I did want to address, we are going to try to be live on some other platforms coming up here. Don't know exactly when that's going to be. Just like last week when you guys were like, why aren't you on Spotify? Why aren't you Apple? I said, we will be on there. It's a two-man operation. All of this stuff takes time. We are hoping later this week there are going to be some new ways that you and people you know are going to be able to watch us live in addition to YouTube. We'll see if we can get there on that, but stay around for that. Okay, so The Hill had an interesting article. And by the way, coming up at 10:45, Daniel Elliott, the state treasurer, will be with us. We are going to talk about his opposition to AES, the power company being bought by BlackRock. We're going to talk about the Bears Stadium. He's actually a key player in that. He's got some big concerns about the Bears Stadium in Northwest Indiana. And we're going to talk about election season. All this flack Greg Ballard getting as running as an independent. We'll get his thoughts on that. It's all coming up at 10:45. All right, so The Hill had an article that says Donald Trump has announced that he will not sign any more bills brought to his desk until the SAVE Act is voted up by the Congress. SAVE stands for Safeguard American Voter Eligibility America Act. So SAVE, S-A-V-E, Safeguard American Voter Eligibility. Basically, what this is a national voter ID requirement. It requires voters to provide documentation, proof of citizenship when they register to vote, and a photo ID at the time of voting. It has passed the House 3 times already, but it cannot move forward in the Senate due to the 60-vote threshold. And obviously, the Democrats are not going to go along with this, and thus it is stalled in the Senate. Trump put out on the Truth social media, I, as president, will not sign other bills until this is passed. And in all caps, not the watered-down version. Go for the gold. Must show voter ID and proof of citizenship. No mail-in ballots except for military, illness, disability. Now, what Trump wants the Senate to do is go back to the talking filibuster. Now, for those of you who don't know, I'm sure most of you do, you are the most educated people in all of Indiana politics and government. It used to be the filibuster, the stall, for lack of a better term, was what they called a talking filibuster, where you had to stay up there on a stage to prevent legislation from passing. You could read the phone book. You could read your love letters to your wife. You could recite the alphabet forward and backwards in whatever language you wanted, but you had to stay on up in front of the Senate, and you had to keep talking. There was, famous stories like guys going to the bathroom and stuff, all of these things. You could not leave the stage in order to keep the filibuster going. At some point, and this is really because senators view themselves, look, all 100 people in the Senate view themselves as being president of the United States someday, or they think they deserve to be president of the United States someday. And so they basically said years ago, well, this is kind of an inconvenience for us. We're too important to do this. We'll change the rules and we'll make it easier to do a filibuster. You don't have to stand up there and talk. And so what you have to do is you have to get a majority of the senators to vote to move forward with the debate. So they have to get the majority of senators. You're never going to get that. The 60 senators you have to get to move forward. You're never going to get that, especially in a divided Congress. So in order to actually have the debate on the bill, to get to the vote on the bill, you have to get the supermajority, the 60 plus of the senators to vote for something in order to get it there. Not going to happen. So what Trump wants what's the Senate to have to do, John Thune, the leader in the Senate, is to go back to the talking filibuster. Say, look, if you want to stop something, you're going to have to earn it. And then eventually, unless you all are just willing to, eventually, it could take months, but eventually they would run out of Democrats that could spend days on the Senate floor stalling something, and then we'll get a vote on this. The Senate, the Republicans, have thus far rejected Trump's demands that this happen. And they have done this, really demanded this in the first term, he's demanding in the second term. They have rejected thus far. There are a couple areas where you don't have to have the 60 vote threshold. Judges are one of them. That was actually started by the Democrats, not the Republicans. And Trump is very upset about this. We have seen guys like Ken Paxton, who is running for Senate in Texas, say, I will step out of the race running for Senate in Texas on the Republican side if the Republicans are willing to get rid of the filibuster and pass the SAVE Act. John Thune has said that's not happening. Part of when he ran to be Senate leader, one of the things he vowed to the more moderate members of his caucus was, I'm not getting rid of the filibuster, and he has stayed true to that. So let's talk about strategy on this, because ultimately this really does affect us here in Indiana, and just like it affects people across the country, it would change the way we vote in America. And while I agree with what Trump is trying to do, and it seems pretty common sense that you would have to prove you're a citizen of this country in order to vote, and you'd have to show an ID in order to vote, I think we can learn some things from Doge and apply them to this instance here. So let's go back to Doge. Remember when Trump gets elected, he's putting Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy in charge of Doge, and they're going to be the reformers, and they're going to slash the government. And at the time, I said, well, that's great, but history teaches us when it comes to the American public, no matter what the issue is, incrementalism is usually far more effective and building momentum than just coming in with the machete. And nobody wants government spending cut more than me. Nobody's a bigger advocate for getting rid of waste, fraud, and abuse in the government than me. But I also understand that the American public is not as quick to change or does not accept change or radical differences in policy or government like me or you would. And so I said, I think Doge was making a mistake at the time, taking a machete to this thing and coming up with all of these big things so fast, rather than taking the biggest tippy-top stuff, showing that to the American people, and then showing what happens with the money that you're saving, and that would build momentum. You know who did a great job of this in Indiana? It was Mitch Daniels. That was the approach Mitch Daniels took. It was one successful government reform at a time. Now, look, Mitch Daniels did a lot of things I don't agree with. See Lucas Oil Stadium. But in terms of reforms of government and taking Indiana to a better place than it was before he got there, I don't think many people can dispute Mitch Daniels, especially early on, did a good job. What did he do? He found the big things first. He would publicize those big things and show them the most wasteful, unaccountable acts of government, and he really took them one at a time. One of the most famous ones is he believed there were too many state vehicles. He took pennies and had his employees, his staff, put pennies on these tires. And sometimes a month later, they would come back, and the penny was still on the tire. That penny being on the tire showed the vehicle had not been used. And so he was able to go to the people of Indiana and go, look at this. We have all of these state vehicles that we can prove to you are not being used. We need to get rid of these. We need to sell them off. And the people of Indiana said, he's right. Look at this. Great job, government. And so Mitch Daniels was able to build momentum. He was able to build up to bigger things, some of the more controversial stuff. And by the time he got to that, people said, well, I'm a little on the fence about this, but this guy's got a good track record, some proven results. He clearly shows he's kind of going to bat for us. Okay, we'll buy into it and go along with it. And that is why when Mitch Daniels ran for re-election in 2008, a year in which Republicans got clobbered all over the country, Barack Obama won Indiana, Mitch Daniels cruised to re-election because people in the middle saw him as a reasonable person who, if he was getting rid of government, it was government that was wasteful, and they bought into it. And a lot of middle people and even some Democrats were willing to cross over and vote for Mitch Daniels because of his proven track record. Doge, on the other hand, went for all of these things out of the gate, and they didn't do a good job of explaining why they were doing it, and they didn't do a good job of explaining where the money was going after it was quote unquote saved. And then it came out a lot of that money wasn't really saved. It simply got reverted back to the government agencies to spend in another fashion. There was very little actual savings that happened because of Doge, and the people caught on to this. And so you're seeing all of these big things happening very quick, these big quote unquote cuts. They weren't really cuts. But then that gives the media the opportunity to pick it apart because you're not selling it. All of these things they're doing, they weren't explaining why they were wasteful. You have to hold the American public's hand, and you have to be able to build momentum. Not the way I want it done, but it's the reality of the game. And so when we come back to bring all this back to the SAVE Act, while I agree that you should have to be a citizen of this country, and you should have to show an ID in order to vote, I think the Republicans are getting nothing because they're trying to get too much. I think if you look back to the 2020 election, there were two reasons that there is great mistrust with what happened with 2020. Number one was the mail-in voting. When you live in a state, and we saw this here in Indiana, we saw it in all the states, when you live in a state where they're simply mailing ballots out to people without really any check or balance on who got the ballot, who filled out the ballot, and who mailed the ballot back, that is going to cause distrust. I think when you focus on how do we provide safeguards, which is part of this bill, around mail-in voting, ensuring that the person who requests the ballot is the person that fills it out, and you explain that to the American people, I think they'd be okay with that. I think we should all have a vested interest in ensuring, however someone votes, that the person who is alleged, who cast the vote, who is alleged to have cast the vote, is the person who filled out the ballot. That vote is actually yours, whether you're a Democrat, Republican, whatever. I think you would get great sympathy on that. I think you would get understanding and public support on that. I think the other thing that Republicans should be focusing on is voter ID. We have voter ID in Indiana, and every year there's never a question about the results. Have you ever heard of somebody going, and I get some people are going to say anything, but have you ever heard like in the mainstream or something backed up with evidence in an Indiana election over the past 10, 15 years? Oh, I think there was a bunch of voter fraud that took place in Indiana. Certainly not with any proof. Now, there have been some people who have been caught illegally voting. It's a fraction of 1% of our population. It's going to happen anywhere, but voter ID is a great way to stop that. I think Indiana has a pretty fair and good electoral process that works very well. Indiana could be a model for the rest of the country, and I do think amongst the majority of people, they would be sympathetic to a national voter ID. I think the mail-in balloting and I think the voter ID are easy things to get people to get their heads around. Where you start losing people and it gets turned into a culture war, and I'm not saying that I agree with this, but I'm saying if you just look at the data on this, is when you start going into the citizenship thing. Number one, it is perceived by a lot of the public as targeting people of a certain ethnicity or makeup. They don't like that. It is also seen as burdensome to many people, and it gives the media the opportunity. That's the biggest part of this. It gives the media the opportunity to set the narrative. And it gets painted as being targeted. It gets being targeted as whatever they want to call people. It gets targeted as being burdensome. And so I think the Republicans would have a much better chance to get the SAVE Act passed if they would focus on ID requirement and mail-in balloting. I think the citizenship aspect of it is a poison pill. I think you would solve most of the problems anyway with the ID requirement and reining in some of the mail-in balloting that is allowed. And I don't think this bill is going to pass because I think, just like with DOGE, when you try to do too much, too fast, it causes the American people to recoil, especially if the media is feeding them a narrative. It'll be fascinating to see, though, if Trump stands firm on refusing to sign any more bills until the SAVE Act is passed. Okay, let's take another really quick break. And, well, before we do that, let me tell you about my friends at Bramwell Mackay. I want to make sure we do that because these guys have been awesome to us. They have been supporters of us from day one, even before we had a show. They have said, we're here for you. They're a phenomenal company across the state of Indiana. So wherever you're hearing my voice now, they can help you out. Leaking chimney, water in the basement, cracks around the exterior of your home. Bramwell Mackay Property Services and Consultants is your authority for chimney repair, tuck pointing, foundation repair, crawl space to basement conversions, basement waterproofing, and more. Bramwell Mackay doesn't offer quick patches. Their team of 40-year master masons and industry experts address the root cause and provide solutions that last lifetimes. Your home is one of the biggest investments. Treat it that way. Bramwell Mackay, your masonry, foundation, and chimney specialist. All right, we're going to take a real quick break. When we come back, State Treasurer Daniel Elliott will join us. He's going to be talking about his issue with AES getting bought by BlackRock, the Bears Stadium funding, which he has a kind of a key voice in, and we'll talk about election season and the Republicans' response to Greg Ballard. You're watching Rob Kendall Show.
Bramwell Mackay assists managers of multifamily and commercial real estate properties with exterior and structural condition assessment and end-to-end building wellness. Your consulting partners for water intrusion inspection and remediation, Bramwell Mackay handles historic restoration and repair, as well as modern repair needs. In Indianapolis, call 812-33-BRICK. That's 812-33-BRICK. 812-33-BRICK.
Hey guys, it's Rob Kendall. Thanks so much for checking out the Rob Kendall Show. And remember, please like, share, and subscribe, and tell your friends about us. If you own a business or you're in charge of making decisions for your business, we'd love to get to know you. We'd love to learn more about what you do and how here at the Rob Kendall Show, we can help you get your word out to a very loyal group of people. Because, that's what we have with viewers on the Rob Kendall Show, a really loyal group of people. Send us an email, sales@robkendallshow.com, sales@robkendallshow.com. And I look forward to getting back in touch with you to learn more about your business and how the Rob Kendall Show can help you grow.
Are you a Clay County resident who is ready to be part of creating a brighter future for our citizens? Doug Cobb is running for county commissioner and will bring fresh perspective to the table. A local farm and business owner, he has skin in the game of our county's success. He knows that a great team can accomplish so much more than any one of us alone and is ready to create a brighter future for Clay County together. The committee to elect Doug Cobb approves this ad. Paid for by Linda Cheatham.
Welcome back. It's Rob Kendall Show. Big news last week. AES, the power provider for Indianapolis, about to be bought by BlackRock. And our next guest says that may not be a good thing. Joined in studio, State Treasurer for the state of Indiana, Daniel Elliott. Daniel Elliott, hello.
Hey, Rob. How's it going? Cool digs?
Yeah, it's awesome. I love that this is how you go to your interviews. I mean, you look like you're about to chop down a cherry tree once you get done here.
You know what? It's good for smoking meat.
Okay, so you came out. So let's talk about what the treasurer does first of all. People think of treasurer and they think, well, he pays the bills. You don't do that.
Nope.
That is the comptroller's job.
That is.
What does the treasurer actually do?
So the treasurer's office, actually, the key core function is I invest and manage all the money.
Oh, you're like a financial broker.
I am. And so what my purpose is, and I think it's the coolest job at the State House. Lots of people talk about being conservative, but then, of course, what is the first thing they want to do is go ask for money.
Right.
I'm the guy who gets to say, all right, my job is to make money so that we don't have to take it from the taxpayers.
Oh, yeah, I like that.
And it's actually a lot of fun. And so if I look at the work.
So are we into like a bunch of penny stocks? It's like Wolf of Wall Street?
It is limited, of course, because this is state taxpayer dollars. But what I'm allowed to invest in are things like treasury notes, commercial paper, Israel. That's gotten a couple people mad at me, that's fine. But at the end of the day, I have to make sure we guarantee a good return. So usually you think of yield first when you're investing. I have to think of safety first, then liquidity, then yield. Yield is actually the bottom, still important, but the bottom of those categories. And that is the primary job. But of course, that job isn't something that literally takes up every moment of my day.
Right.
So I also have 5 different quasi-governmental agencies that I run.
Oh, we get very concerned when we hear quasi-governmental agency. We think IEDC.
Yes, a lot of people do. And that's a fair concern. Mine are very boring.
Oh.
So the Indiana 529 program, that's how people save for college. I run all of those investments. And when I came in, we were at about $7 billion. Now we're at about $9 billion.
Oh, so you're making us money.
I'm making, in case of 529, I'm making families money who are saving for their children. I run the Indiana Bond Bank. I run Trust Indiana. We talked about that.
That's right.
In the past. I run a lot of these programs with the Bond Bank and Trust Indiana are specific programs to help local governments because we have tools, we have the expertise, we have the ability to do a lot of things that, say, your local clerk treasurer may not have that expertise. So the Trust Indiana is that example where they can do investing through the Trust Indiana program. And then the other, the Indiana Bond Bank, completely different from the IDC. The Indiana Bond Bank's mission is to focus on local governments, small governments, helping them build out a sewer plant, build out a road.
You guys help local governments get money cheaper than they could get it on the open market.
So they can now, if they can get it cheaper on the open market, say someone like Carmel has got so much going on, has so much income and revenue coming in that they can go on the open market and maybe get it cheaper than a lot of others. But if you take, say, Morgantown, Indiana, small little town, they're not doing this all the time.
Right.
And so they don't have a bond rating. So they go through us.
All right. You were in the news over the last week because
I think I caused some trouble.
Yeah, you did, which is what you do well. You came out and said you are very concerned about AES, which is one of the big 5 power providers in the state of Indiana, investor-owned.
Yep.
They have announced they're being sold to BlackRock.
Yes.
$33 billion, I think, is the number. You came out and said, I'm very concerned about this. Why?
So first off, BlackRock. Just going to say
Bad reputation, right?
Bad reputation.
No, you've gone at BlackRock in the past.
I have. I've dealt with BlackRock in the past. They
Look at he's so powerful. He's like, yeah, I've dealt with BlackRock in the past.
well, and I guess at the end of the day, when they came to visit me when I was dealing with some of their pension funds and how they had this.
Wait, I don't mean to cut you off, but when you say came to visit you, I'm picturing like a bunch of like guys in suits with sunglasses.
Actually, it was the second in command of the entire BlackRock operation.
They stick a horse head down on your desk.
And they were very nice, but they came in, obviously this is right at the beginning, and I'm saying, hey, I'm opposed to ESG. And for your listeners, ESG is environmental social governance, basically woke corporations saying, we're going to follow these liberal policies and we're going to force you to do it because we have all the money.
Right, sure.
And so I pushed back at that, and their response to me, they came to visit and say, we don't do that. I'm like, well, I've got all this evidence that you do. And then, the fascinating thing is,
do you have people in the room with you? It's like a mafia meeting where you got your guys.
Here's the funny thing about it. I have this really terrible habit. It makes my staff a little nervous. I will go in by myself.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm here to represent Hoosiers. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to get intimidated. I grew up poor. I grew up, in some in a rough childhood. So in the end of the day, sorry, I don't get intimidated by guys in suits.
So you ultimately pulled dealing with BlackRock. You stopped that.
We were able to get some laws passed that allowed me to put them on a watch list, which I did.
A watch list?
Yes, they are on our watch list. And then we were able to vote them out of being able to work with our pension funds. So my whole point is these are not they've not been honest brokers in the past.
Right.
And they've shown that they're more concerned about pleasing, woke European sensibilities than they are about Hoosier values. So that's a question, a concern. Now, I'm not opposed to business, but I also am concerned because you have that, so you have BlackRock right off the top. Then you have a European company, EQT. They are literally, if they're following European Union rules, they are following ESG commitments. That's just part of the European Union. Then you have Qataris, the Qatari Sovereign Wealth Fund. They funded Hamas. That's a concern. That's a question. I mean,
it sounds like some real bad actors.
Yeah. Now I get it. Right now, they're helping us, with Iran, but they've not always been the best of friends.
Yeah.
And then you throw in CalPERS, which is the California Public Retirement System Fund, which is literally under investigation by a congressional probe for mismanaging over $300 million of California pensioners' funds. That's those questions. I'm like, we should be asking, hey, is this the right deal? And they're not here for, because they want to help ratepayers get it cheaper.
They like money.
They're here for one reason: AI.
Daniel Elliott is our guest. He's a state treasurer. We're talking about his concerns about AES being bought by BlackRock. Okay, so people have been critical of you on social media. They said, hey, he's come out now. This deal was rumored to go down back in October.
Yep.
In fact, I think we talked about it on the radio show at the time. Well, why didn't he say something then?
That's a fair question.
Fair criticism?
Absolutely. And so I'd love to tell you that because I'm a statewide elected official, that I have a back channel to everybody.
Right.
And that people tell me all this information, but that's just not how it works. So when that came out in October, that actually was what set me off to start studying it. And one of the things, I'm a nerd. I admit I'm a nerd. But the bad thing about being a nerd is I don't like to jump into something until I do some research. But in October, that set my brain to thinking, what's going on here? And then I started doing some investigation onto BlackRock. And of course, when I reached out to BlackRock. Oh, no, we don't know anything about this now, granted.
So you actually went to BlackRock and said, are you guys buying AES?
I did ask that question.
Oh, and they said no.
And they said, well, we don't know anything about that at our level. Maybe, we don't know. You know,
well, it seems like a 33 billion seems like something you would know about, right?
right?
Yeah.
You know, now don't get me wrong. Larry Fink wasn't the guy I got to talk to. I was
Right.
talking to somebody, you know, who is representing
Customer
them,
service.
basically. And so everyone's like, well, I don't know. And so with that being the case, you know, I could have come out and said, oh, you know, they're telling me nothing.
Right.
Well, that doesn't mean a whole lot.
Right.
So once this came out, then I was like, okay, now I have now this is real. I can express my concerns.
Can anything be done to stop this? So this is what is amazing to me, is that the government cannot, the state government cannot stop this, even though the government grants the monopoly to the utility.
Yep.
There's no recourse for the government to be able to stop this. As the state of Indiana.
That is my biggest concern, because it's going to be decided by the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. It's going to be decided by the Trade Commission. It's going to be decided by, now here's another acronym for you. It's the Committee on Foreign Investment in the U.S.
Sounds made up. This is like some scammer calls
But
you.
let's be honest. Do any of those folks care about who's your ratepayers?
Right. So why does Indiana not? Do you have any idea why they don't have the? Because some states do.
Interstate commerce.
Yeah, some states do have the ability to step in, though, and Indiana does not. Do you have any faith in the IURC that they're going to be like, no more rate increase? BlackRock ain't buying something if they're not pretty sure they're going to be able to get these rate increases.
And that's my concern. And what one of the things that is a fair criticism, well, hey, why even speak about it when you have no control over it? And that's fair, except for one thing. Just because I have no control, it doesn't mean I shouldn't say something.
Yeah.
You know, and that's where, and one of the things that I can recognize, and it's not because of me, I'm just a cowboy and, you know, who happens to be in a elected office. But if I'm not going to speak up for people, who is?
So why? I compare your statement to Braun, where Braun was just like, well, I would be very hopeful that they would not raise rates. Like, you gave a very forceful statement. You didn't get that from Braun. You haven't gotten it from the lieutenant governor. You haven't gotten it from anybody else. Why do you think more people aren't speaking out the way you're speaking out about this?
I don't know. I wish I could tell you. You know, at the end of the day, I guess my biggest problem is, you know, I don't care if I don't get reelected. If I don't get elected and suddenly, you know, BlackRock and AES fund my opponents, then, you know, I go back home to Martinsville and I'm still okay with that.
Daniel Elliott, state treasurer, is our guest. Let's talk about the Bears for a second.
Okay.
You were one of the people who also was willing to raise some concerns about the Bears stadium deal, which hasn't taken place yet because the Bears are still negotiating.
Yep.
What is your concern about the Bears stadium deal in Hammond, Indiana?
My biggest concern there is we've just, and this is a very different situation than the AES situation. In the AES, obviously, as was said, I have no say-so over this. On the Bears, I sit on the Indiana Finance Authority. I'm the only elected official on the Indiana Finance Authority.
You got some control over this, don't you?
I have a vote.
Yeah.
I have a vote. And so I'm going to look at this very carefully. The one thing I'm not going to do is say, rah, rah, the Bears are coming.
That's right.
All right, whatever they want. I'm not
for you.
going to say that. Now, I'm not going to say that this shouldn't happen either. I'm going to look at this deal and say, how does this benefit taxpayers? How do we make sure that we don't put everything on the backs of the taxpayers? That's going to be my biggest concern. And I'll be honest, and I know I've said this, and I am a minority in this. I still believe that the Bears are playing everybody.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
Right? Nobody else will admit that inside that state house. And that's what's crazy to me.
I'm probably going to get phone calls right now.
You're the only guy who is in a position of authority there who will say, this is all, they're just using Indiana. And
I hope not. I hope there's a real deal. I really do.
Do your colleagues, like, do they understand the perception where there's all these issues, property taxes, utility bills, all these issues, and there's not really any urgency, but then like the Bears want a stadium and, you know, within 2 weeks, we've got a stadium authority. Like, do they understand? People look at that and go, your priorities seem a little out of whack.
So here's what I would say. And I know this is not going to sound like it's true, but it really is. I just had conversations with folks, leadership at the General Assembly, who they actually are asking those questions, and it isn't just about these things that we're talking about. They're recognizing that, hey, we got to be careful, because when we talk about, making changes, that's good. We want to make sure we're making good changes that are fiscally responsible. We want to be, we want to make sure our taxes are low, that we're making sure more people have funds in their pockets to do, because it's their money, it's not ours. They are worried about that, and they are concerned about that. The only thing that you have to recognize is you got 150 plus one if you include the governor, and they all have different opinions about how that should be done. One of my concerns is sometimes when we look at some of these issues, we look at big cities and the suburbs like the donut counties, and we say, oh, yeah, here's a problem. I've heard you talk about it, oh, they're building a swimming pool in Brownsburg, and it's like, we don't want a swimming pool. But you know what they're not doing in North Vernon, Indiana? They're not building a swimming pool. They're just trying to pave a road.
Right.
Those are real issues and real concerns.
Couple minutes left with Daniel Elliott, State Treasurer. All right, enough screwing around. Get to the hard stuff.
All right.
You're running for reelection.
I am.
You don't have any competition at the convention as of now?
As of now, but after this interview, that may change.
Yeah, and that's what I love about you. Did you let them know we're back, by the way? People were very excited that we went away.
You know what? I never doubted that you'd be doing something, so I'm kind of excited.
In fact, you were one of the first guys who called me, and you said, "Where are you going?" I said, "I can't tell you yet, but we're here."
Yeah.
Okay, so there is competition on the Secretary of State side.
There is. Mm-hmm.
David Shelton has filed.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Diego Morales. They both filed now,
Yep.
so you can say they are candidates.
Right.
You get any thoughts on what way the party should go with that, especially with Greg Ballard now potentially being in the race? Are you a delegate? Are you running for delegate?
I'm running for delegate, too.
You can be a delegate as the treasurer?
I can be a delegate and run for...
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, well, you think about it. You can vote for yourself.
Yeah, that's
why
great.
not? Now, don't get me wrong. It's a small rural area where I live. A couple townships is the delegate district, so I might not win.
Yeah.
I will say...
That would be bad if you lost.
It would
you are
be
the state treasurer.
Yeah, that would be kind of sad, but I've seen it happen before.
Really?
To others, you never assume. So I've got to go campaign for delegate.
So as a delegate, let's just presume you would be a delegate.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on this?
So my thoughts on this, for one, I was just listening to the Greg Ballard interview that Abdul did. So,
of course he went to Abdul. Of course he went to Abdul.
It was there. I was listening. But what I'm concerned about that because that's going to hurt. That will hurt the Republican Party.
Do you think he will pull from Republicans?
100%.
Yeah.
Anyone who tells you differently, and I've heard people say, "Oh, it's going to be from Democrats." I'm like, no.
Bobi's not worried about this.
Here's why. The Democrats, I'm just going to say because I'm a Republican, the Democrats have been throwing crazy candidates out there for years.
Yeah.
Destiny Wells, and so forth. And so they have a floor. That's the floor they've already done.
Yeah.
So they can't get crazier
Can't
than
get
that.
any worse, right?
Yeah. So they're loyal.
Yeah.
So now you're talking about pulling from Republicans. And so I am concerned about that. And I think we as a party have to really focus on having good quality candidates, a good message, get out there and get the work done. I will tell you, and I've gotten criticism for this too, but hey, join the club. I'm not worried about having a convention. The convention delegates will choose.
Yeah.
And they will choose who they think is the best one for it. It's a misnomer when people think, oh, we got all these people locked up,
Right.
No one has them locked up. When I was running, nobody thought I could win. This guy from Martinsville driving around in a pickup truck with a busted headlight, no way this guy's going to win. He's going to be knocked off first
You
ballot.
won by 3 votes too, right?
I won by 3 votes.
Because your competition's people left on
Yeah.
like the second or third ballot.
But
you gotta hang around.
But you know what people didn't catch? Remember, there's multiple ballots.
Yeah.
The first ballot, I was a few hundred above the next guy.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of support because I went out there and worked my tail off.
Are you surprised at how mean the Republicans have been to Ballard, who was once their sort of golden standard as a mayor up until yesterday? Are you surprised about that? I mean, it's one thing to say vote for the Republican. I get that. But they basically painted him like he should be on an episode of America's Most Wanted.
See, and I'm too much Southern Indiana boy. We don't need to trash people. I mean, we need to point out issues, but I don't, I'm not a big fan of that. I don't think it has any real bearing. I think what you have to really say is, here's why this candidate is the right one. And right now, we don't have a candidate yet.
Yeah.
We got to go through the convention process and see what happens.
And for the record, you still have identified me as a Republican in good standing.
I do.
Yeah,
I do.
I've used that numerous times.
I know, and I think it's hilarious. And I've had lots of people disagree with me on that, and they made it very vocal.
Yeah.
I was like, that's all right.
Hey, we love you, man. Thanks for coming. State
appreciate
Treasurer
it.
Daniel Elliott. You're watching Rob Kendall Show.
Bramwell Mackay assists managers of multifamily and commercial real estate properties with exterior and structural condition assessment and end-to-end building wellness. Your consulting partners for water intrusion inspection and remediation, Bramwell Mackay handles historic restoration and repair, as well as modern repair needs. In Indianapolis, call 812-33-BRICK. That's 812-33-BRICK. 812-33-BRICK.
Hey guys, it's Rob Kendall. Thanks so much for checking out the Rob Kendall Show. And remember, please like, share, and subscribe, and tell your friends about us. If you own a business or you're in charge of making decisions for your business, we'd love to get to know you. We'd love to learn more about what you do and how here at the Rob Kendall Show, we can help you get your word out to a very loyal group of people. Because, that's what we have with viewers on the Rob Kendall Show, a really loyal group of people. Send us an email, sales@robkendallshow.com. Sales@robkendallshow.com. And I look forward to getting back in touch with you to learn more about your business and how the Rob Kendall Show can help you grow.
Are you a Clay County resident who is ready to be part of creating a brighter future for our citizens? Doug Cobb is running for county commissioner and will bring fresh perspective to the table. A local farm and business owner, he has skin in the game of our county's success. He knows that a great team can accomplish so much more than any one of us alone and is ready to create a brighter future for Clay County together. The committee to elect Doug Cobb approves this ad. Paid for by Linda Cheesam.
Hey guys, welcome back. Rob Kendall Show. Don't forget the website, robkendallshow.com. We've got a live stream there, podcasts of the program, and transcripts of some of our favorite segments each day. Find it at robkendallshow.com. Again, if you haven't, please hit the subscribe button. That helps us out immensely. And share this to your friends. We want to grow this thing. Our growth is your growth. We're going to do it together. It's one of the things, Saturday night in Greenwood that was so special was you guys coming up saying how much you loved listening for all those years. You love listening now. It really meant a lot to know what us being together means to you, and we're going to keep it rolling here. Don't forget also, if you got friends that say, well, I'm just not a YouTube person. By the way, some of you were telling me this. You take the feed and you put it on your big screen TV. Looks great. Some of you watch that way. That's super cool. Hook your computers up or to your big screen TV. That's super cool. Look fabulous. Anyway, if you're not a visual person, right? If you're a podcast person or you got people that are just audio only people, we're on all the platforms now. We got the Apple, the Spotify, there's some platforms I've never even heard of that we're on. And you can find that link, robkendallshow.com. You've also got the top of the Twitter page, at Rob M. Kendall on Twitter. At Rob M. Kendall on Twitter. And yes, on the robkendallshow.com page, we have a support button. If you like what we do and you want to throw a few shekels our way, we would certainly appreciate that. No obligation. Like I said, we just had a bunch of people reach out and say, I want to support the show. How can we do it? There's the button. It helps you support the show if you want to do that. Okay. Interesting article from a guy by the name of Dace Potus, Dacepotas. He is a columnist at USA Today, and he was writing about something I've been talking about for years on a variety of platforms, basically how rotten it is that taxpayers have to fund primaries for the two major political parties. And in this column, he talked about how nearly 80% of eligible voters don't participate in the primaries. Think about that. A government-mandated service that you have to pay for that 80% of the people don't use. You pay for 100%, and only 20% actually vote nationwide in our primaries. That's the most government thing ever, right? Where you take money from somebody and you give it to a very select group of people. And that's exactly what we're doing with our primary system. we are forcing the majority of Americans who don't participate in something to fund something for a select few. And when we talk about not participating, some of it's apathy, but a lot of it is people just don't want to identify with either of the two parties. Both parties have become so bad, and in many ways so extreme, and not extreme in a good way, that public policy has taken a complete backseat. At the end of the day, campaigns mean nothing. How many times have we seen this? Where somebody campaigns on something, they say all the right things. If you elect me, I'm gonna. And then not only do they not deliver, they don't even try. I think we've run into that in our state with our governor and lieutenant governor the past year and a half. And so people have become so disenchanted with both of the political parties. They say, I don't want to participate in the primaries because I don't want to support either one of you two people. I guess at the end of the day, I got to vote for one of you two people if there's no libertarian or third party running, if I'm going to vote. But I don't want to have to go into some club function, and I certainly don't want to have to pay for it. I mean, again, 80% of the people don't participate in this, and 100% of the people have to pay for it. The libertarians have the blueprint. Libertarians don't do a lot right. They do the nominating right. So in Indiana, libertarians have ballot access, but they don't have major party status. In the state of Indiana, you got to get 10% of the vote in the Secretary of State's race to get major party status, which means you get primaries. Last time around, Jeff Moore, the Libertarian nominee for Secretary of State, he got basically 10% in Indianapolis and the donut counties. You're welcome. But outside of that, it was back to the usual 2 or 3% because they couldn't raise money. They couldn't run ads. Nobody knew he was running for office. And so he ended up with about 5.5% of the vote. Still great by the normal 2-3% libertarians normally get, but not nearly enough to get the major party status. In the state of Indiana, to get ballot access, you have to get 2% of the vote. And libertarians in the Secretary of State's race. So it's going to be fascinating this year. One of the major things that's going to be at play for the libertarians, if Greg Ballard gets on the ballot and runs for Secretary of State, is can the libertarians get that 2% to keep their ballot access? There's a real concern they may not be able to do that because oftentimes the quote-unquote protest vote goes to the libertarians. You know, people are, I don't like the Republicans. I don't like the Democrat. Okay, the libertarian's running. I'll vote for him or I'll vote for her. That protest vote is probably going to, many will now go to Greg Ballard. And it's going to really put the onus on the libertarians to have to earn those votes again to keep their ballot access, or you won't see them on your ballot going forward if they don't get the 2%. But one of the things the libertarians do right and do well is they nominate their candidates. And they do it without taxpayer money, without it being a taxpayer function. Every year that there are, every other year, right? The libertarians have a convention and they nominate their candidates at that convention. So Secretary of State, the auditor, it's comptroller now, the treasurer, all of their candidates get nominated at a convention. They do it without county conventions, etc. The county offices are at county conventions. That's how they do it. They don't use any taxpayer money. The Republicans and Democrats kind of do this for select offices. Treasurer, comptroller, Secretary of State. We just talked with Daniel Elliott about that. Lieutenant governor. Those are all at conventions, attorney general. But across the board, their county offices, their local offices, the Congress, all of those are nominated using taxpayer resources. And we should not be paying for that as taxpayers. It should be a party function. So the state's POTUS talks about in his article sort of how good, and he doesn't use these words. I'm going to read you part of his article here in just a second. But what he's basically talking about is how good public policy kind of gets lost to extremism. And the ideas that are best for most voters, best for the public at large, never see the light of day because candidates are running to the extremes because that's what the parties are now. The states are now gerrymandered, not just the congressional districts or the House and Senate districts inside the states. The states themselves are mostly gerrymandered. Think about how few swing states there actually are. Think about how few states every year you look at and go, okay, that one could go either way. What, it's like Pennsylvania, Arizona, Michigan, Wisconsin, maybe Nevada. I mean, Trump was sort of the exception to that. There's a handful, 5 or 6 states. They're like, those are the toss-ups. And it's true with the Senate races, and it's true with the House races. There are very few states now that are independent, that are swing states. And as a result, they have drawn these congressional districts, these House districts, these Senate districts, the party in charge, so that elections are less and less competitive, where the primary is all that matters. And in the primary, you're seeing these candidates. Look, you're seeing it now, like in Texas, where this runoff is coming down to some sort of Trump loyalty pledge, where Paxton and Cornyn are fighting for who's most loyal to Trump. Not who's got the best ideas for the voters, but who's most loyal to one guy. The Senate races here in Indiana, the state Senate races, they aren't about property taxes or utility bills. They're about, well, these senators didn't vote the way Trump wanted them on redistricting, so we're going at them. Well, you're not hearing a lot of ideas that are being shared. At least I'm not, and I try to follow these pretty closely. There's not a lot of great ideas on how the lives of Hoosiers are going to get better. Just who will be most loyal to Trump his final 2 years in office. And look, wanting to align with the political candidate, the president of your party, not a bad thing. It's a common thing. But it's not necessarily what's best for us. Doesn't produce policies that are best for us. The Democrats are the same way. It's total extremism on the left. Who can be the most anti-Trump? Who's going to be the best fighter against Trump? Not who can find the most commonality, work together with the other side, find issues that work for voters. That's why we're getting bad public policy. POTUS writes, quote, those who are uneasy about voters being cut out of the process should recognize that the median voter already is cut out. The incentive structure for candidates is broken. Under the current dynamic, candidates are incentivized to engage in bloody primary fights, such as those in Texas on March 3rd, to differentiate themselves from one another among the most partisan voters, only to moderate once the general election comes around. Bingo. You don't know what any of these people believe, because we see this all the time, where they're super extreme in the primary, and then all of a sudden, general election, oh, I lost some of those ideas. Oh, I didn't really mean that. Oh, yeah, but I mean, you got to take it with a grain of salt. Oh, yeah, but it's measured with this. You're not learning what these people actually believe in primaries because they're trying to tell the most amount of people who are the most extreme what they want to hear. And thus, we keep getting policies in Washington, in the Indiana State House, in our communities that don't work for us. Okay, gas prices. And by the way, stick around, because coming up next segment, or it'll be our last segment of the day, we always do a long one with that, producer Jason going to read some of the best YouTube comments. Remember, you got to be a subscriber in order to comment, and you got to behave yourself. Those are our 2 rules. Jason is now in charge of the YouTube comments. He's going to read some of your comments when we come back. I want to talk about gas prices real quick, though. According to WTHR, gas prices went up again this weekend, and it is now the average retail price for a gallon of gas in this country is $3.45. That's according to AAA. It's up 13 cents from just Friday. You're seeing huge, look, little ticks in gas over time, that doesn't disrupt an economy. It's baked in. A little up, a little low, comes and goes, stock market, some sort of pipeline gets, shut down or rig gets shut down, all those things happen. But they're fixable, right? They're short term, boom, we're back to where we're going. But when you are looking at 13 cents over a couple of days and 50 cents over a week, and it appears to be a prolonged thing, that has the ability to cause a major, major disruption with the economy. Don't forget, diesel is also on the rise. Diesel is $4.59. That's up from $3.76 a week ago, almost $1. Well, 80 plus cents. Diesel are the trucks that move stuff. When the trucks that move stuff start seeing their costs go up, the cost of everything starts going up. And that is a very dangerous territory for the president because, once again, a major reason he was elected was affordability. Major reason he was elected is he's going to get prices under control. And what have we seen now in his first 2 years of office? We've seen the tariffs that raise the prices for everybody on everything. And now we're seeing a conflict with Iran that is raising the price of gas and diesel, which is making gas more expensive. Cost goes up. And the diesel will cause the cost of everything else to go back up. Donald Trump has not done a very good job so far, and he didn't do this with Venezuela either. And look, quite frankly, Trump is not a good salesman after the fact. And I was thinking about this over the weekend. One of the reasons most presidents, when they get a public policy win, they go out and sell it. They go around the country. They have town halls. They meet with, with local media. And they say, here's the policy I did. Here's how it's helping your community. Here's Sally, who got to go to college because of the blah, 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 right? You guys know what I'm talking about. Trump doesn't do that. And I was thinking, why doesn't he do that? I think a major reason Trump doesn't do that is the world he comes from. In the business world, once the deal is signed, he doesn't need you anymore. Think about it. Trump's whole life was doing business deals. He needs you until you agree to a deal. Everybody signs. Now it's done. I don't need you anymore until the next thing comes up, and then I'll deal with you when I need you on that. In politics, the post-vote sale is actually the key part. Showing the American people how their lives are better for whatever you've done is the thing that matters and affects your poll ratings. Trump doesn't understand how that orbit works. He doesn't understand how that universe works. And so, with the big, beautiful bill, other than his rallies that he does every so often, he hasn't sold that at all. I've never seen a president get a signature issue accomplished and then not go out and sell it in individual communities in swing states. And I think that's part of why that bill is not very popular. I mean, it's not a good bill, but it's why it's unpopular. He's not selling it. The president has to be the salesman in chief. And with both Venezuela and now Iran, and the Iran one is much bigger than Venezuela because it's affecting the global economy. He's not selling why this is in the interest of the American people. I mean, he's saying stuff, but he's not making the sales pitch, especially when you start hurting people in the pocketbook. When you start hurting people in the pocketbook, they get real squeamish. Their level of what they will tolerate gets smaller, and they need reassurance on why their personal pain is worth it. And I've not seen Trump doing this. Just simply saying we're getting rid of bad guys is not going to appease the American people for a prolonged period as gas prices go up in an already tightening economy, already people with tightening pocketbooks. Hey, let me tell you about my friends from Bramwell Mackay. They have been a longtime supporter of us. By long time, I mean from the moment I went into my bedroom doing my videos. And they've supported us for years, even before that. Masonry color mismatch, previous repair catching your eye, not happy with the brick color on your home and ready for a total makeover. Bramwell Mackay Property Services and Consultants offer specialized masonry, staining, and recoloring. Whether you want to seamlessly blend repairs or completely transform your home's exterior, want something new? Bramwell Mackay's 40-year master masons design and construct custom patios, sidewalks, outdoor summer kitchens, archways, entryways, and more. Bramwell Mackay, beauty built to endure. So you can find them on the web, by the way, bramwellmackay.com. That's BRAMWELLMCKAY.com. That's BRAMWELLMCKAY.com. And whether it's Bramwell Mackay or our new friends at Vent Savvy, VENTSAVVY.com, VENTSAVVY.com. Please let these people know you've heard the message, even if you don't need their service right now. They're local merchants. They're Indiana people. They're Indiana companies. They depend on, they're supporting us, and we need you to support them so that we can keep doing this. Because without support from local merchants, we're not going to be able to do this. And so just let them know. That goes so far. If you can just message them and say, hey, heard your ad. Thanks for supporting the show. I'll call you when I need you. That is great for us and super helpful. So please let our sponsors know. You've heard about them. We've got some other great companies coming on, and that's what we're going to ask you to do to help keep us doing this show for you. All right, let's take another quick break. We will be back. You're watching Rob Kendall Show.
Your bathroom fan could be secretly costing you thousands of dollars in damages. Most people don't even know this until the damage is done. With over 18 years of bathroom remodeling experience, here are 3 signs your fan is failing you without spending a dime on inspections. Sign number 1 is if you have foggy mirrors after you shower. This shows that your fan isn't pulling out enough moisture, which creates the perfect environment for mold. If you have a properly functioning bathroom fan that is the right size for your space, you shouldn't see much fogginess on your bathroom mirror at all. Sign number 2 is if you have bubbling, cracking, or peeling paint in your bathroom. This means moisture is soaking into your walls, slowly breaking down drywall, and even causing the wood framing behind it to rot. Sign number 3 is if you have mold buildup on your fan, ceilings, or walls. This is terrible for your health, but also could wreck your bathroom, costing you a fortune. If you're noticing any of these signs, here's what you can do.
Call Vent Savvy today at 317-300-4434. That's 317-300-4434 and mention Rob for a free attic inspection.
Are you a Clay County resident who is ready to be part of creating a brighter future for our citizens? Doug Cobb is running for county commissioner and will bring fresh perspective to the table. A local farm and business owner, he has skin in the game of our county's success. He knows that a great team can accomplish so much more than any one of us alone and is ready to create a brighter future for Clay County together. The committee to elect Doug Cobb approves this ad. Paid for by Linda Cheatham.
Bramwell Mackay assists managers of multifamily and commercial real estate properties with exterior and structural condition assessment and end-to-end building wellness. Your consulting partners for water intrusion inspection and remediation, Bramwell Mackay handles historic restoration and repair, as well as modern repair needs. In Indianapolis, call 812-33-BRICK. That's 812-33-BRICK. 812-33-BRICK.
Hey guys, welcome back. Rob Kendall Show. Last segment of the day. We always do a long one to wrap things up and send you out into the world. We got some cool stories to get to. Well, some interesting stories, I guess I should say, to get to. But before we do, you know how we're doing this now. The YouTube chat. You got to be a subscriber in order to chat. Got to behave yourself. And now we've put the esteemed producer Jason in charge of monitoring the YouTube chat and reading some of the best chats, comments that you guys put out throughout the course of the day. Jason joins us again.
Hey, we're back.
How are you?
Forgot to turn my microphone
Now
on,
you're back.
But, there we go. First error of the week.
Yeah.
I'm still a little low, but there we go.
So people don't know, Jason is the maestro who's put all this together. It would not be possible without him. He is the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain. And Jason is phenomenally talented in many areas of his existence. And I said Jason would be the perfect person to pick out the best YouTube comments throughout the course of the day and read those on the program.
That's right. I had a few prepared, but I've lost them because there's so many people chatting right now. It's awesome.
I don't know if you screenshot them or what. But,
I should. That's probably what I should do.
Yeah. We're learning as we go.
There we go. So a lot of people still loving the show, and let's see, there was some people responding to the advertisers, which is great.
Oh, that's awesome.
That was one I was looking for. Vent Savvy has already had a call. Where did that one go? That was the one.
That was Andy, wasn't it?
Wasn't it Andy?
Yeah,
there we go. Where's Andy at here? But yeah, you already called Vent Savvy and already set up an appointment, and that's vitally important, folks. I mean, that's from my point of view. I mean, this guy's got to pay me, so
yeah.
he needs to be paid first. So let's make that happen. Let's see. So the did you talk about the time change? I know that's not like critical news, but a lot of people it's like last week I had to start getting up at 7:30 in the morning, and it feels like now I'm getting up at 6:30, and that's just.
So here's what happened with the time change. You know, the problem with the time change is my digital, like the clock, like the phone clock works, but none of the other clocks work.
You still have analog clocks?
Well,
in your house?
like in your microwave, your oven, you got to do that. And so I woke up, my wife and I woke up on Sunday, and Livy's like talking in her crib, and it's like, what time is it? The sun's out. And I'm like, what is going on here? And I looked down at the clock, and it's 8:20. And I'm like, there's no way this kid slept until 8:20. And then I realized, well, in her mind, she didn't sleep till 8:20. Then the problem I had yesterday is her timetable was all, or her equilibrium or whatever you want to call it was all off. So she didn't nap yesterday because in her mind it was earlier than what it was when we normally put her down for a nap.
And you're not that strict of a parent.
No, that she
How do
wouldn't.
you raise a child these days without spanking them? I mean, I don't know if I can say that without being arrested. But I just don't understand how that's even possible these days.
And so
You're not going to answer that, are you?
I talked about this. I talked about this in the comedy routine that I did on Saturday night. My kid is very smart, and she figured out at about 1.5 years old, there is a limit to which these people can punish me. Like you can't walk. I don't. In her mind, she doesn't understand Guantanamo Bay.
So you're just putting way too much thought into being a parent. Back in the day, you just little SWAT. Get over there, sit down. You want another one? You don't want another one? All right. It's like 5 seconds, man. I guess you can't do that these days.
Well, yeah, I don't. It's a different time. Your son is a fully grown man now.
Grown ass man, right?
So her day is off. She's cranky in the afternoon. So it's like I paid for daylight savings time all day because it threw my kid off of her clock.
Right.
So that was my daylight savings time.
I got you.
You'll remember this. The great thing about you gained and you lost, right? Literally. Remember in the fall, what a great feeling that was? You got an extra hour of drinking because you would realize when it was 2 a.m.
So I was always working at the bars, so it was always an extra hour of work. It's like we're not getting off till 4 o'clock.
Yeah, because they would leave the bars
I
open.
always ended up having to work that night.
Yeah, so you would realize at 2 a.m. and it would dawn on you right about 1:45. We're not closing down. We're still going. But then you got the exact opposite in the spring, right? Because you would lose an hour. Though I think they keep them.
Oh yeah, they still keep it open. They're not going to lose that extra hour.
Yeah. So anyway, what else we got?
Oh yeah, we're here for the chats, aren't we? It's truly. I have to admit, I'm truly amazed when we started the show last week. I thought there'd be a lot of negative things in the chat,
right?
Not necessarily about the show or about all this, whatever, this dark cloud that's been hovering over everybody for some strange reason, But I just thought there'd be more people criticizing you, Rob.
Yeah,
and they're not, and that's
people love me.
A little disappointing. I was
he's literally, you could see him here. He's scrolling looking for a negative comment. Yeah. What a rotten friend you are.
I'm just trying to keep you even keeled, Rob.
Yes, thank you.
I want to get the big hit. But let's see, there were a couple here that again, the gas prices, you talked about that. Yeah. People should share your opinion on the gas prices, but of course they're probably also buying $10 lattes and damn gas prices.
Not my listeners.
Not and not Rob. They're for sure. Let's see, where do we had a few more here.
You're worse at this than I am.
Well, it threw me off. I wasn't quite ready for a second round here, but a lot of people engaged in the. I'm just kind of giving an overview.
Yes, thank you.
Of the chat, mainly to let people know you can chat.
Yeah.
And I do read them.
And Jason's doing 9 things, by the way.
And you talk about having to be the sheriff, and I've not deleted anybody.
No?
I've not. Now in YouTube, you do put a list of words in, and I probably shouldn't say this because people are probably going to try to now find that list of words, but there's a list of words you can't use on our chat.
Yeah. Well, decent society, right? That's our rule.
And I'm not even worried about what the words they use. It's just like I thought people would be bickering or fighting, and this is just a love fest here, like Rob. So there we go.
All right, thanks, Jason.
Okay, let me get out of here.
All right, so fascinating story from Politico about what's going on in Georgia. And you say, Rob, don't you mostly do local stuff? I do. And when I do national stuff, I bring it back to how it affects us here locally. And what's going on in Georgia, I think, should be a blueprint for how the Democrats in Indiana can bring themselves back to some level of relevance. Because if you remember, for years and years and years, Georgia was a deep red state. It was blue through Jimmy Carter, and then it flipped. And really, since Reagan until, I don't know, maybe 2020, Georgia was a deep red state. And Democrats have been able to make deep inroads in Georgia over the last 5 or 6 years by doing things that we're about to talk about. And what I'm talking about is focusing on issues that actually matter to people. One of the major problems for the Democrats, both nationally and in Indiana, is they have taken a bunch of issues that nobody cares about in terms of the public at large. They've made them their primary issues, and their opinions are not where the public is. So Well, what a great example. Where do you see these people show up on? Where's the passion on? Where's the, hey, we're filling the state house? Issues like abortion and the trans rights issues. Look, I get that people are very passionate, that are really into those issues, abortion and trans rights. But by and large, the public doesn't care. And I know that's going to be hurtful to some people, but it's not a top priority. Poll after poll after poll bears that out. That abortion and trans rights are issues that do not resonate with the majority of voters. And in the case of abortion, for the people who do have an opinion on it, they tend to be more pro-life, which is a position that is in direct contrast with the Democrat Party. On trans rights issues, they tend to be people who say minors should not be making those choices. If you're an adult, you make the choice for yourself. Minors should not be doing this. And yet these have become the front and center issues that Democrats nationally and here in Indiana tend to lean on. They show up for, they get passionate about. It doesn't move the needle. And to the public at large, it pushes them against you. Thus why you see Democrats struggling in Indiana and across the nation. And I think the 2024 recap, whatever they call that, where they do the report on the 2024, every time there's a presidential election, the losing side does a recap. Why did we lose? What didn't we do? I think the Democrats saw they failed to connect with regular people. They weren't talking enough about the economy and affordability, and they were talking about these fringe issues that recoiled voters. Georgia is different. Georgia has elected 2 U.S. senators that are Democrats, and now they have done something else electing Democrats that is giving them a foothold back in the state because they're meeting voters where they are. They're talking to voters about issues they care about and issues that resonate. So Politico has an article about this. In the state of Georgia, the people who control utility prices are elected. In Indiana, they're appointed. So this doesn't totally apply to us, but the premise does, about meeting people where they are, talking about issues that matter. In the state of Indiana, our utilities are controlled by the IURC, the Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission. Those people are appointed by the governor. We've talked about them at length. We've talked about the topic at length. In Georgia, they're actually elected. It's called the Public Service Commission that sets the utility rates in the state of Georgia. And the public gets to vote on it. It's a 5-member board, and the public votes on those people, and they run for office in a regular cycle. Last year, 2 Democrats were elected for the first time in a very long time to that board because they ran on affordability of utility rates. And what these Democrats did was they flipped 22 counties that voted for Trump. 22 counties that voted for Donald Trump also voted for these 2 Democrats running for these, what do they call, Public Service Commission that sets utility rates. And they ran on, their whole message was the affordability of the public utility. And nationally and statewide, Democrats in Georgia caught on to this, and the national Democrats caught on to this. The Georgia Conservation Voters PAC invested $2.3 million. It was its largest campaign play ever, $2.3 million. The Democrat National Committee raised $100,000 and put a lot of boots on the ground to get people out to vote. Democrats should be running on this stuff. Democrats should be running on affordability. Democrats should be running in Indiana on property taxes, utility rates, Medicaid disaster. All of those things, when you knock on doors, resonate with people. All of those things, when you see people at the grocery store, are things that most people are thinking about. Why? Because everybody that owns a home is paying property taxes. Everybody, regardless of where you live, is paying a utility bill. And whether you know somebody on Medicaid or not, or whether you are on Medicaid or not, there's a good chance you know someone who is affected by that. And by the way, you're paying for it, so you have a vested interest in it. These are the made-for issues. I've also talked about things like public corruption. I've also talked about things like the $90,000 car that Diego Morales is driving around in, or the $87,000 car that Micah Beckwith is driving around in. People see that and they go, I can get my head around that. That's bad. That's wrong. That's government excess. Things like the corruption, the unethical behavior with the IEDC. hundreds of millions of dollars that could have gone to other government programs or, heaven forbid, just be put back in the hands of the taxpayers. Just gone. Given to the most powerful people, powerful corporations. Things like pumping millions of gallons of water every single day out of Eagle Creek to the IEDC, to Lilly and Meta, Megacorps, getting resources and the regular public not being allowed to tap into that. Those are the issues that every single person can understand. Those are the issues that every single person can get their head around. And if the Democrats want to have any chance of moving forward, they need an organized, not just individual candidates talking about this, but an organized strategy, an organized set of talking points, an organized message across the state of Indiana on how they're going to deal with these things, especially because the Republicans will not. And if they get this organized message, it's going to dramatically help people like Bo Bai running for Secretary of State, who actually have a puncher's chance of winning. The Democrats don't have to be. I threw this piece of paper on the floor, and I didn't mean to do that. I still need it for our final segment. The Democrats don't have to be a super minority party. They have chosen to be a super minority party in this state because of the issues that they have chosen to tackle and the extreme positions they have taken that are not in line with the people of this state. All right. Final topic. I saw this, and I'm fascinated by this. Fox 59 had this article, and it involves Elvis's final concert here in Indianapolis, and this discovery that has come to light, which like, I am always amazed at things people find, like things I'm talking about, things that have been around for years and years and years, and then suddenly somebody finds something, and you're like, how did that go? Why was that there? Why did somebody not alert somebody? Hey, if something happens to me, you make sure to get this. You know, it always amazes me things people find. So Elvis's final concert, June 26, 1977, was in Market Square Arena. No longer with us anymore. Was what's it been? Decade and a half since Market Square Arena was torn down. I don't even know how long it's been. 2 decades, whatever. But a woman named Wilma from Delaware County, that's Muncie, was in the audience at Market Square Arena for Elvis's final concert. Her husband, now this is foreign to people today, right? Because everybody just takes pictures with their iPhone or their Android. But they used to allow you to bring cameras into, producer Jason remembers this, used to put a music magazine out every month. They used to allow you to bring cameras into the arena and take pictures. And so her husband, they were on the floor, they were very close to the stage. Her husband shot 112 photographs on 40 master negatives of Elvis's final concert. Incredible photos that had never surfaced before. And you guys won't believe where they came to light. They came to light in an abandoned storage locker. You know, like those shows where Storage Wars, where people, for whatever reason, they don't pay their bill, and so the storage company just becomes in possession of the stuff if you don't pay your bill for a certain period of time, and then they auction them off. This guy, his name was Derek Lloyd. He bought the locker. Well, usually the way it works is they will open you've never seen this. They will open the locker, and you can see. You can't look in. You can't go through the stuff. You can just see whatever's available to the naked eye, and then you make your choice on how much you're going to bid based on what you can see. And so inside this locker were all these Elvis photos, including 2 ticket stubs to the final show, and get this, multiple scarves used by Elvis on stage, including a show in 1976 at IU and then the 1977 next to last show in Cincinnati. Unbelievable. By the way, it's $15 to see Elvis and sit on the floor in 1977. That's how much a ticket cost. A lot of money back then, but fraction of what the floor seats to a major artist are today. Included in these photos, and this is one of the big ones, were Elvis's final bow. This guy has incredible shots of the final bow Elvis Presley ever took. And now these photos are going to be able to be disseminated into the public, and Elvis fans are going to be able to enjoy them. And I think that's just phenomenal. I think Elvis Presley is one of the most important people in American history. Elvis Presley, maybe a Mount Rushmore. I mean, When you think about the people who've mattered most in the history of America, I don't know if he makes it quite there. But in terms of identifiable people, few people had the impact Elvis Presley did in American history, and his connection to Indiana, that his final concert was at Market Square Arena. There's still a placard there when you walk past the spot where Market Square Arena was, and I believe that's on the placard about Market Square Arena, that it was Elvis's final concert here in the city. And the fact that we own that's a pretty special thing, that we had Elvis's final concert. All right, as we do each week, let's talk about wrapping up. We wrap up each week, each day, each week. There we go. Wrap up. Where do we go from here? Take some of the topics we've talked about, and we talk about how you can take that information and go out into the world. And the question I'm going to ask you today is, how much BS are you willing to tolerate from your elected officials? And I come back with where we started the program today, talking about Diego Morales and this now investigation that has been forwarded to the Inspector General and the State Ethics Board about Diego Morales using state resources for campaign purposes. For those of you who missed the opening segment, go back and watch. You watch on the YouTube. We'll have it up at all the podcasting platforms. Diego Morales, according to this investigation done by the Marion County Election Board, photographed himself in the Marion County Election Center with Marion County election workers, and then later used that video for political purposes. You cannot use state resources for political purposes. And so they have now recommended, due to Morales' apparent refusal to respond in a timely fashion or take the video down, which was their initial request, they have now forwarded that to the Inspector General State Ethics Board, and they would like them to launch their own investigation because they believe something needs to be done about it. And what I said is, it's just another notch in the rung of BS from Diego Morales. In terms of the shenanigans this guy's pulled, I don't think it's the worst. And yet nothing ever happens to him. And there are still people at these Lincoln Days who shake his hand and act like it's cool to meet him and act like he's something special. They facilitate that. We facilitate this by not holding our elected officials accountable. We facilitate the egos and the arrogance and the elitist behavior by making these people think that they're something special. You know, one of the things at our event on Saturday night, and it was hundreds and hundreds of people, and Jason was there, and he can attest that, you know, it was a sold out crowd and it was a wonderful evening. Afterwards, I tried to shake as many hands of people as I could as they were leaving. Some people bought the copies of the book. By the way, if you would love a copy of my horrible book, you can get it on Amazon. Just put Path Less Traveled, Rob Kendall in. I can't sign it for you there, but if we see each other out and you got it, I'll sign it for you. But people were coming up, they were getting the book signed, and they were talking about how much the previous show that I did for years and this show now, how much it means to them, and it was so touching. But one of the things I kept telling the people back, or at least I tried to, was how much they meant to me. Because without them, or you watching now, there is no me. And I've always tried to stay grounded in the fact that, and I've mentioned this for years and years and years, without you, there is no us. And the same thing is true with the elected officials, but they don't see it that way. Has an elected official ever said that to you? If you come up and shake their hand, and they always said, thank you, without you, there is no me? Especially outside of an election season, when they pretend to like you or care about you? The answer is probably no. These elected officials treat us with their votes and their actions the way they do because they don't fear us. Not fear in the physical sense. Everybody should always behave themselves. They should always be a part of decent and good society and behave in a law-abiding manner. But fear in the sense of that we won't do anything about their political careers. That we won't vote them out. That we won't recruit good candidates to make a difference. How much BS are you willing to take from your politicians? Because they keep upping the ante because they keep getting away with it. They keep upping their game because we keep not holding them accountable. I had a very dear friend, and I've told this story many times on the air over the years, but I know we have a lot of new viewers in, who is a prominent figure in state government. And I will not name this person for fear that he would be tarred and feathered for a public association with me. But he told me something a while ago, and it's always stayed with me. He said, Rob, the lessons of COVID to the politicians was that they could get away with just about anything, and the public really won't fight back. Because if basically locking people in their homes, forcing them to wear a mask, costing them their jobs, shutting down their businesses. If that didn't motivate the public to make wholesale changes in who represents us in our government, then nothing probably will. And I think that's why you've seen the behavior from politicians in a post-COVID world get progressively worse. Because our politicians believe that they can pretty much do whatever they want, and for the most part, we are not going to hold them to account. So the question for you is, what are you going to do in a primary season over the next several months? Well, not even several, really, right? We're 30 days away from early voting. Over the next couple months to hold your politicians who have primary challengers accountable. Are you going to vote for them? What did that person actually do for you? And by the way, if you're a delegate to the state convention, if you win your delegate seat, I'd ask the same question about Diego Morales. When you cut through all the bluster and bravado and BS from this guy that he spews, what has he actually done that's worth reelecting him? What has he actually done that someone like David Shelton, a very competent person, would not do? What great thing would you say, well, that only happened because Diego was there? It's the PETA level. We refer to it as the PETA level, the pain in the ass level. Diego is a giant PITA, but he doesn't produce results that you would say, well, this is only happening because he's there. Why would you, if you're a Republican delegate, why would you possibly want to deal with that for another 4 years and run the risk of likely losing the election and handing it to Bo Bai because Greg Ballard will pull a whole bunch of Republican votes? The same thing, though, you have to play the same standard, though. Like, if your state senator is one of these people getting challenged, what have they actually done for you? What have they actually fought for you on? What have they delivered for you that somebody different wouldn't have been able to deliver? I bet if you ask your state senators that, most of them would struggle to answer that question. And if they aren't delivering something for you that no one else can deliver, and you look at the overall state of our government, state of our state, way we are governed, policies that we are governed under, why would you send the same person back? If they're not doing anything individually special for you or your communities, which most of them aren't, and look at how you're being taxed, look at the unaccountability, look at the unethical behavior, I mean, in some cases, just blatant corruption that is the Indiana state government, why would you send any incumbent back? So that is my challenge to you. Where do you go from here today? Start thinking about that. And how do you motivate your neighbors, your friends, your coworkers to be asking those same questions? That's what we got to start thinking about in the primary process, as long as taxpayers are forced to fund them. Okay, couple of notes before we say goodbye today. Don't forget, website, robkendallshow.com, robkendallshow.com. We have all of the live links there. The podcast links are there if you want to go back and listen or watch if you missed anything. We got links to all the podcasting platforms there, Apple, Spotify, all of them. And then also transcripts. We put transcripts up each day of some of our favorite segments that we think you will enjoy. robkendallshow.com. We've also got a support button there. If you like what we do and you say, hey, I just love watching every day, you want to throw a few coins our way, support the show. We would love your support over at robkendallshow.com. But again, we're not begging you for money. Don't feel obligated. Just a lot of people asked how they could help. And we said, well, here, we'll just put it there for everybody to do as they want to support the show. At Rob M. Kendall on Twitter. Find us there. If you haven't, give us a follow over there on Twitter. Post a lot of thoughts about some of the topics we're going to talk about or do talk about each day at Rob M. Kendall on Twitter. And then most importantly, you didn't think I was going to get out of here without this. If you have not done so yet, on YouTube, if you're listening to us on YouTube or wherever you're listening to us at, please like, share, and most importantly, subscribe to our feed. We need to grow this show. We need to get the numbers up. We need to keep growing. We need people to see, hey, these guys are expanding. They're on these other platforms. Please do that for us. You guys have been awesome. I can't even tell you how thankful I am, how great the numbers have been over the first week plus, but we need to keep that momentum going and liking, sharing, and subscribing. is the way you can do that. And last, but certainly not least, please support our sponsors. We're growing in sponsors. The sponsors have been looking. A lot of them has, told us a couple weeks ago, okay, I'm tentatively on board. I want to see how you do. I want to make sure you don't blow anything up. You get on the air. And now they're coming in. We got new ones that are coming in, a couple new ones that are going to be adding in addition to the new one we had today. Please support our sponsors. And by support our sponsors, you don't have to use them right away if you don't need them. Let them know that you heard the ad and let them know you'll use them when the time comes for their service. So right now, we'd ask you, Bramo Mackay and Vince Savvy are the two we're asking you to reach out to. They have contact forms on their webpage. We've given those phone numbers out. Bramo Mackay is at BRAMWELLMCKAY.com. That's BRAMWELLMCKAY.com, Bramo Mackay. And our new sponsor, Vent Savvy. These guys do awesome work. John's a great local merchant. And let Vent Savvy know, bathroom exhaust fans, they can cause all sorts of problems for your whole house, mold, etc., if they're not taken care of. And John's awesome. He'll do a free inspection for you. If you don't need one, no harm, no foul. All you got to do, ventsavvy.com. That's VENTSAVVY.com, VENTSAVVY.com. He's going to come out to your house. Oh, you do have to mention Rob. Just mention Rob to get that free attic inspection. That's very important. Say, hey, I heard you on Rob's show. I want the free attic inspection. He come out, great guy. If you don't need it, he's going to say you're fine. No muss, no fuss, nothing I can do for you. But if you do need it, you're going to save yourself a lot of time and money potentially in the future by getting that vent fan fixed now. And Vent Savvy is the place to do it. So please let those people know you heard the advertisement. That's super important, and it'll help us continue to grow in people sponsoring the program, which means we can do more things. We want to send Jason out on the road. We want to do more investigative stuff, but we got to have the resources to be able to do it. Thank you so much for watching today. We love you. Thanks for supporting us. Thanks to producer Jason doing his usual outstanding job. Thank you to Chris Spangle and his company. LeadersandLegends.net is the company. If you'd like to get into the podcasting world yourself, Chris can hook you up with that. He can do a great job for you. LeadersandLegends.net is their website. And we will see you tomorrow. You've been watching Rob Kendall Show.